You're listening to Oilersnation Radio, presented by the Nation Network. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Welcome to Oilersnation Radio, episode 134. Your Fed Bagnog here. We're going to break down the week that was for the Edmonton Oilers. I'm joined, as always, by Tyler Remchuk, Nation Dan, Josh Park sitting in for Rick today. Got a lot to get to, despite the fact that there's no games for us this weekend. It's a rare weekend off for the Oilers. A non-COVID related weekend off for the Oilers, which is interesting, but we'll get to that. First, I'm going to start off by welcoming our friends at Sherwood for the Giant as listeners. We know you're listening, and we know you hear us when we say we want new Broncos for the boys. Just imagine how sweet we would look in different colored Broncos cruising around the Henday in some kind of sexy convoy.
I'm thinking
Go ahead.
We take our different Broncos and we park them all facing each other, and then we just do the podcast that way.
I would like that. We can make that happen.
Back in the pre-COVID times, I had suggested that we get like an old Ford Aerostar from Sherwood Ford, and we go and we do like an all-night podcast where we just do hits and come in over the top, and the four of us have to just spend a night in a van together.
Yep. That's an idea for a podcast I actually had where maybe before an Oilers playoff game, back when people were allowed, we just do the thing where we set up a table outside Rogers Place, across the street, and just us and an open mic. And if people want to stop by and talk, they can.
Once upon a time, we did a episode of North by Northgretz, RIP North by Northgretz at live at the Pint. And it was a lot of fun. So we should definitely do that whenever we're able to do that again. Go check out Sherwood Ford on Twitter, at Sherwood Ford on Instagram, at Sherwood Ford _the Giant. Again, Broncos for the boys. We'd look great. You'd love it. Everybody'd love it. Tyler, kick us off with this week's Sherwood Ford Giant question of the week.
Our Sherwood Ford Giant question of the week. Connor McDavid, it's centered around number 97, who has 77 points in 45 games played. That means he would need 23 points in his last 11 to crack 100. We all kind of thought he'd do it at the beginning of the year, especially when he was on that big heater. Does Connor McDavid have enough in him? Can Connor McDavid, or will Connor McDavid, get 100 points this season?
One more time with the numbers, please. Where is he at? We got 11 games left.
Yeah. So he is at 77 points. So he needs 23 points in 11 games. Can Connor McDavid do it?
So if we're working the math out here, let's think it out loud, right? So he's going to have to go over 2 points a game to get there, carry the one, add that in there. Yep. That is a heavy, heavy order to get to 100 points in 11 games. Dan, you predicted over 100 points to start the season. I'm starting with you. Does he get there?
Yes, sir. He absolutely does. I know that logic wants to leak in, and your brain wants to tell you that it's going to be really hard on a guy to have to do that, but you can't bet against number 97, the best player in the league right now. He has 5 games against the Vancouver Canucks, 2 games against the Calgary Flames, and then he still has a couple more games against the Jets and the Canadiens. So yeah, for me, he gets a couple games with 3 or 4 points, and then we're not even questioning it anymore. I think he gets over 100 points.
It's going to be a tight one. Like you said, he's going to have to go on a heater over these last 11 games. It's doable. I would never bet against him, but it's going to be interesting to see how he gets there. Josh Park, your thoughts, McDavid to the century mark.
I think if we played the Sens 11 times, you could do it. But see, the only issue that I have with it is, okay, let's say this scenario, the Oilers have 11 games left. Let's say in the final week of the regular season, the Oilers have obviously locked up a playoff position and already locked up either second or third in the division. Could you see them maybe potentially not playing McDavid for the last 2 or 3 games of the season just to kind of reserve him for playoffs? Could you see that happening? What if he's 4 points away and there's 2 games left? What if Tippett's just no, McDavid's not playing. He's not freaking playing. It's not worth it. What then?
I could also see in that exact scenario where maybe Connor dresses, but instead of playing 23, 24, or 27 minutes like he did the other night, where it's 12 to 15. Just to get him in the game, but he doesn't really go out for a twirl. So Josh is a no, Dan's a yes. Tyler, what do you think? McDavid to the 100 mark.
I'm also going to say no. I think you can make a case for it by going, listen, in the last 2 weeks of the season, they're going to play the Vancouver Canucks 5 times. By that point, Vancouver could very much just be dead in the water and be going through the motions. So if you look at those 5 games against the Canucks, I think it's almost realistic to expect him to get like 14 points in those games. If they play him hard and he's getting his 28 minutes and there's power plays and there's all that shit, like if they wanted to get McDavid to 100, I almost think they could because he has so many games against the shitty Canucks, 2 against the Flames as well, always does well against Calgary. So it's possible, but I'm going to agree with Josh actually and say that he won't quite get there because I think they'll take the foot off the gas a little bit. I think they'll rest him. I think if he's the slightest bit nicked up, they might even sit him for the last couple games of the season. I just think with such a compressed schedule, you need to prioritize him being healthy heading into the playoffs over some sort of individual numbers. So I'm going to say like I could see it happening, but I don't think it will.
I'm going to agree with, as much as I want to agree with Dan and be like, fuck yeah, Connor's going to go supernova, which he is right now, by the way, and just get to the century mark in a 56-game season. I think that this is going to be one of those load management type scenarios for the Oilers as we go into the back half, because at the end of the day, Tyler has said this a handful of times already. He could probably stop now and still win the Art Ross trophy. It's not going to happen, but he probably could stop now and already win the Art Ross. Yeah. I don't think Connor cares about individual awards. I don't think he cares about the points total. It would be another nice notch on the belt in a way. But I think overall, the playoffs and the health of McDavid and Draisaitl matters more than getting him to 100 points. And I think that maybe even if he, like I said, if he doesn't come out of the lineup entirely over the last handful of games, that I can see some low minute nights for McDavid down the stretch.
See, I do agree with that game management kind of strategy about playing him less and less in the first and second periods. But I do think that this team has to win hockey games still. You got to keep the boat rolling into the playoffs. And like we saw against Montreal, he turned it into in the next gear in the last 5-10 minutes of that game and netted himself 3 points. So I hear what you guys are saying, but it's for me, I can't not bet with him. If I put my money, my hard-earned cash down, it's going on Connor McDavid to get over 100 points.
Well, here's the thing, Dan. Like I want you to be right. I want to be wrong. I don't want to be right here. I want Dan to be right. I'm trying to think of what I put out as my preseason points total for him. And I think it was like somewhere late 80s, 87, 88, somewhere around there. So he's going to soar past that, which in my mind is remarkable in the first place.
I'll see if I can bring it up for us while we're continuing to discuss.
But again, I think the thing is, normally you would look at 23 points and 11 games left to play, and you would just automatically think no. But when it comes to Connor McDavid, the fact that this is even a conversation is pretty hilarious. Right now, he's on pace for 140 points over a full season, which would be the highest total since Mario Lemieux's 161. And that came probably before Josh and Tyler were even born. I'm going to pull up the year here right away. I was working on it for my random thoughts article for tomorrow at the Nation, but
I think it's pretty safe to assume that.
I wouldn't bet against him, but I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot.
I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't want to bet against him. I don't want to be that guy, but like, it's hard, man. Like, scoring points is still hard. And I know the Canucks are probably going to be laughable down the stretch here once they eventually lose their steam. But like, still, there could be some tight games. He might get shut out in one game. Like, averaging 2 points a game in the NHL is difficult. You don't even
ridiculous.
Yeah. And the fact this is even a conversation talks about just what a dominant season he is having, because it's wild.
He's a freak. Like, it's amazing to see that this year-long stretch of having very limited hockey for him really, I mean, think back, boys, before the season started, when we were talking about what Connor's season was going to be like. He had a lot of time to prepare, a lot of time to train. He had a lot of time to work out. The year before, obviously, he was rehabbing his knee. That was on the back end now. That was behind us. And I think the interesting thing about this conversation is, where's the ceiling on this guy?
Yeah.
Where's his max? Because just when you think he's going to hit it, he blows through it.
Sorry, go ahead, Big Mouth. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. And he's a freak. He really is.
I was always going to say, what do you think the age for him is going to be when he's at his peak? Because I've talked to a couple of people about this, being like, okay, would his peak be like 27, 26? Is he at his peak right now? Like, I really don't know what it could be. What do you guys think?
I think it's probably coming in the next couple of years here, and this is one of them. But here's what I'll say about McDavid is the idea of a peak is almost foolish because I think his peak will look like a plateau. Like this 140 point pace he's on right now, I think this might just be the norm for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons. Like his peak might just be a flat line for 5 years where he is just so far ahead of anyone else in the NHL, which he is this season. But you even look at a guy like Sidney Crosby, who
I was just going to say,
again, this year, 54 points in 46 games. He's played over 1,000 games now, and he's still a point per game guy in the NHL. So I just think McDavid's going to be great for the entire time he's on the ice. And the idea of a peak, like I don't even want to discuss that with him because I think his whole career is one big long peak.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going to talk about McDavid's peak, you have to compare apples to apples. And a guy like Sid is probably or Ovi as well, is probably the kind of people you would want to look at because they're just, there you go. Or they're just ahead. They're above everybody else. So looking at Crosby's career, he's never once, there's been some injuries in there, obviously, but he's never once dipped below a point per game. Not once. And he is now 33 years old. He turns 34 in August and he's still going. So could Connor be doing this for the next 10 years? Yes. And that's amazing to me. It really is.
Hey, what's more realistic? McDavid getting to 100 points or Tyson Barrie getting to 50?
What's Barrie at? Like, why is this even
because Barry's at 38 right now. He's on pace for 69 points this season.
Nice. Barrie getting to 50 is pretty realistic. It's funny because there's the whole argument with Barrie about secondary points or second assists and all that kind of stuff. So anytime he registers one, be it 5 on 5 or on the power play, it makes me laugh now. I actually laugh when I put it in the wrap up. I make a specific point of talking about Tyson Barrie's second assists now, just because I know how it annoys people. So I would say Barrie's more likely to get there. He's got an easier route. Give it to Connor and Leon. They'll do the work,
Yeah.
If you think Connor is going to get to 100 or not, I want to know about it. Hit us up on ON Radio Podcast. That's on Twitter and Instagram, ON Radio Podcast. Let us know. Can Connor McDavid get to 100 points? I don't think, before the season started, I would have never guessed that this was even a possibility or a question we'd be having. It's just like such a freakish thing to do.
Well, but like I'm looking, I went and found the numbers that we were looking at. We were still.
There you go, Dan. Let's go.
I was up at 99. So this was on. You posted this bag milk on the 11th of December. I had McDavid at 99 points and Draisaitl at 92. Tyler, you had McDavid at 94 points and Draisaitl at 91. Bag milk, you had McDavid at 81 points and Draisaitl at 79.
God, Connor making me look foolish, huh?
And then Rick had 85 and 83. But I think to that point, I don't think he is making you look foolish, because when we did that, people thought we were smoking the good stuff. They were convinced that we were just high on that Kool-Aid and not really talking in the realm of reality. And now, like you said, it started early in the season where people were like, okay, Connor's on pace for 110 points right now, and then it died off a little bit, and now we're back in that conversation. And again, like you guys said, it is pretty impressive that he is making us have this conversation and that people are at least even giving it a pause for thought.
Looking at the quick feedback, Tyler posted this again, ON Radio Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. He said, can Connor get to 100 points? Couple of quick items. Fiddler says, can he? Yes. Will he? He'll be very close, but I will never doubt him. So my answer is yes. And then Shannon says, I said at the beginning of the season he would hit 100, and I still believe it. So there's some believers out there in the nation, and I like it. I like it a lot. I really, really do. And I like watching Connor. Again, Tyler said it a million times, and we are very, very blessed to be watching this guy on a nightly basis. Remember that, people. Remember it. And you know what? I'm probably going to say it again in Random Thoughts tomorrow. We are lucky. Very, very lucky.
To answer your question, Josh, Gretzky led the league in points when he was 33. So I think for like these great players, I believe that, Bag Milk's right. The plateau is just going to continue for a while.
It's just different. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not the same as the rest of us. They're freaks. They really, really are.
Jason Gregor had a really interesting point today too on the DFO rundown where he brought up how, like, look at LeBron. Like, LeBron is dominating late into his career. Tom Brady's still a good quarterback late in his career. The modern training, the modern athlete is built and has the resources to go longer than a Gretzky did, maybe longer than a Crosby did. Because, I mean, fingers crossed, McDavid won't have the same injury problems in his career. Like, McDavid could be built to just dominate until he decides at like age 41, all right, I got better shit to do. I'm out of here.
Yeah, or like you look at Patrick Marleau right now. He just eclipsed Gordie Howe's record, and he just hit all the sound bites from him are just, hey, listen, I love hockey. There's nothing about hockey that he doesn't enjoy. And the minute that happens, he's done. But I think you can see that with Connor. He is an absolute robot programmed to play hockey. And until that programming breaks down, he's there for the long haul.
Even just going back to Gretzky one last time, age 37, his final season in the NHL with the New York Rangers, he led the team in scoring. These guys are freaks. Yeah. They're freaks. Again, if you've got thoughts on McDavid getting to 100, hit us up, ON Radio Podcast. I also suggest you hit up our friends at skipthedishes.ca for something to eat this weekend. It's going to be nice. You've got things to do. You've got items around the house, maybe some spring cleaning you're working on. Head on over to Skip the Dishes. Get yourself something to eat. You don't want to cook. They want to bring food to you. That's what it's all about. Like Tyler always says, tip your drivers, skipthedishes.ca. All right, boys, we have no game this weekend, so we can look back on what happened last week a little bit more thoroughly. So I want to jump into the series against Montreal. That was probably one of the most exciting /fun/ wild ride Oilers games of the season. I had a great time watching it. Even if the Oilers hadn't come out and ripped up 4 goals in the third period to close out that game, probably still would have been one of the most fun games of the season. Jack Michaels was absolutely bananas. Everything about it was fun. So I want to touch on Monday night's game, just everybody's vibes on how things are going, whatever you're thinking when it came to Monday's win over the Montreal Canadiens. Mr. Danger Dan, you are up first on my screen.
Playoff hockey, man. That's exactly what that felt like to me. It's a weird, alternate reality version of it with COVID and no fans in the stands. But like you said, Jack had the crowd, the digital crowd going nuts, and holy hell, was that game on Monday fun.
We'll get to Wednesday's letdown because I agree with you there, Dan. Josh, we were texting throughout Monday night about Jack getting us all fired up. What was your breakdown on that one?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is even coming into that game on Monday, I've always had a little bit of doubt that I didn't know if the Edmonton Oilers could compete at that kind of physical level on a night in, night out basis. Being a super physical, heavy team up front isn't the Oilers game, and it's obviously more skill and speed. So I always wondered, like, if the Oilers did get into a kind of battle like that, if they'd be able to hold their own. And on Monday, we saw they could, and that's the type of playoffs that we're going to see, or that's the type of hockey we're going to see in the playoffs. So, I enjoyed it. That kind of pace, that kind of game, that's what I live for. And plus Jack was just, that was wild. But that game had everything. And we saw, Jay and I talked about it on Monday going into that game on our pregame show, that it almost seemed like Connor and probably Leon too were just like, it seemed like they were a little bit salty about the way that Montreal has kind of handled them this season and essentially shut them down throughout the games that they played in that series so far this season. So it was good to see coming out early. You could see that Leon and Connor both had a little bit of fire underneath them. So just wildly entertaining. So I enjoyed that game.
Tyler, you were down at the barn.
Yeah.
You were there. What did you see from press row?
I feel like I missed out on the performance from Jack Michaels, so that upsets me a little bit.
Well, if you want, just real quick,
yeah.
Josh put together a third period highlight pack that he tweeted out, posted on the Nation's socials. Go check that out. It is Jack at his best. Pulsating!
We should almost play it on the pod.
Sorry, Frank. I woke you up, buddy. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, Monday. It was just the speed of that game is what really caught me. And so far this year, I don't think we really saw that level of sort of emotion and physicality. And like the buzzword, the cliche is playoff like hockey. But in this case, the cliche is absolutely accurate. That's exactly what it was. And there was hate. I don't know how much they showed it on the broadcast,
Salty.
But like behind the play, there was a lot of shit. After the whistles, there was a lot of crap going on too. And like at the end of the second period, when Toffoli took that penalty on Haas, Danault was standing up on the Habs bench, and like most of his team had gone down the tunnel, and he was fucking banging his stick and screaming at the refs. And they were all the way down at the Zamboni entrance. And Danault was fucking giving it to him. And that carried over the rest of the game. Like the entire third period, whenever there was the slightest call that didn't go the Habs' way, it was Danault, I think Edmondson, and it might have been Anderson was the third guy. They would stand up on the bench and bang their sticks over the edge and scream at the refs, like consistently the entire third period. So there was just a few little things like that I picked up on that just showed like, man, these guys cranked up the competitive level, like off the fucking meter for that hockey game. And it was great to see the emotion when Ethan Bear scored. Like that was fun. That's to me what kind of makes playoff hockey fun is like when they score big goals and it's not just Draisaitl and McDavid doing their ho hum, like, oh yeah, another one, like fist bump, skate to the bench kind of thing. Like they're legitimately jacked up to score. And I love seeing that stuff.
You were at the building. I know you get the crowd noise pumped in as well, but could you give us any insight on perhaps what they were yelling at the referees? I can't imagine it was a pulled pork recipe.
As soon as the period ends, they usually get the music going, so we can't really hear what was being said. But I'm trying to think if there are any good moments in that game. Like you do pick up on the odd, like, oh, fuck off. And you pick up on that on the broadcast sometimes too.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite. I love a good F-bomb sliding through on the broadcast.
When the announcers have to just kind of be like, that language is not appropriate. Sorry.
Yeah, some real emotion in tonight's game.
Yeah, I don't remember what Jack said the other night, but a fuck bomb came through on the broadcast and he's like, well, the players are upset down there. And as I'm sure you heard,
that was when
the best.
That was when McDavid went to go rim the puck with the delayed penalty and it hit the official behind the net. And McDavid was like, are you fucking kidding me? And Jack's like, oh, Connor McDavid might not like that.
I love it. It's just the best. It was physical. It was fun. It was high tempo. I probably watched Ethan Bear's goals celebration 50 times. The dude was fired up. All right, let's get ahead to Wednesday. Dan said it, and I agree with him. It was a little bit of a letdown. I thought the Oilers were engaged physically, but they weren't necessarily as engaged on the offensive side of the puck. And when they were getting completely dominated on the shot clock early on, what I wish they would have happened, and I know I said this on Real Life yesterday, I know people love to talk about shot quality a lot, especially in the city. We've got a very dominant analytics community here in Edmonton, but when you're getting that pumped that heavily on the shot clock, I would have loved to see the Oilers create a little bit of chaos for themselves, drive to the net, throw pucks at the goalie's feet, try to create your own luck, a little bit of chaos in the crease. It was a slow start for the Oilers. It really was. Montreal was hungry. They were desperate. They were playing that way. Things started to even out a little bit as the game progressed until the exciting finish in the last couple of minutes, but a little bit too little too late, from my opinion. I want to know what you guys thought. Josh, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it was a different vibe on Wednesday, a little bit of a different style game. It seemed like there was a little bit of fatigue maybe in the Oilers. Obviously a little bit banged up front. That casting situation is kind of not ideal because, Bag Milk, I think that we talked about this as well, that game on Monday night from Zach Kassian was probably the best game that we've seen out of him all season long. So, we heard Dave Tippett come out this morning, say that it sounds like Zach Kassian is going to be out for a decent amount of time. Who knows if that's going to be extending into the playoffs or it's just the remainder of the regular season. But, that's the added advantage of, although they're two completely different styles of players, that's the added advantage of having Ryan McLeod get called up as well. But anyways, going back to Wednesday, we saw that late surge, that late comeback, maybe something that we wouldn't necessarily have seen out of a past Edmonton Oilers team. It was kind of relentless down the stretch. So it was encouraging, and then obviously the biggest takeaway that I take away from Wednesday was just, I can't believe Jesse Puljujarvi scored again. Like this guy is really trending in the right direction. So it's good. It was a tough loss, but at the same time, like it's not one where you're going to hang your head and be like, man, like we completely 100%, crap the bed on that one. And those are big points that we just missed out on. Yes, you'd like to win that game, but still an encouraging sign. And it was good to see JP get on the board again.
Dan, you were the same mindset of me, a little bit disappointing, at least with the start on Wednesday. What was your breakdown of that one?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head for me as well. It's how many times can you remember in your vision test that the Oilers have had two lucky goals in one game? like 2 bounces off of a shin pad into the net, just where you've just hurled it at the net, like you said, Bagmilk, just try to get some rubber in and around that net area, and at least, again, be able to make your own luck. You saw it with the Toffoli goal in that game, where he just happened to be Johnny on the spot when they forced the defenseman they forced Archibald to make an ill-advised pass to a defenseman that wasn't there. And he was on the spot to put it in the net. And that's the kind of stuff where, if you're putting that pressure in and you're in the right spots to make those chances, you succeed. But for me too, it's something that Josh was talking about with Puljujarvi is they don't seem to be expecting Jesse Puljujarvi to just make magic happen anymore. They let him just kind of do the finishing touch, make that last little play or that last little pass that gets the puck to the guy that it needs to get to. So I like that. You've seen kind of an evolution of Jesse's game, even just over this short season, and leading into the playoffs. It can only mean good things, but man, was that shot on the when he came into the zone and just cranked it. That is vintage good hockey that I love to see. And you can't beat that kid's enthusiasm right now for the game of hockey.
I want to talk about Jesse a little bit later, but yeah, he's been a lot of fun to watch. Goals in 3 straight games for him now. My biggest problem with Puljujarvi is that I did not bet more money on him going over 8.5 goals at the start of the season. That's my biggest problem. Tyler, your thoughts on Wednesday's loss to Montreal?
Yeah, a little bit of a letdown. I thought the Oilers just weren't very sharp mentally even. I felt like there were some brain farts in that game, and that last goal was a prime example of it. Like, everyone was kind of guilty of it. Yep. Yeah, I think some frustration obviously showed through. It's one of those losses, though, that I wasn't staying up kicking myself about any one aspect of it or anything like that, just because sometimes you just aren't the better hockey team. And they played great on Monday. The third period was fantastic. And in the final few minutes of that game, the Oilers were great at pouring on the pressure as well, which again, I think showed you a glimpse of why they might be tough to put away in a playoff series if they have that sort of resilience in their game. But I don't know. I just kind of shrugged. Like, it wasn't a huge loss. It wasn't one where they played so bad that I'm concerned about things leaking in to bad habits and all that. It was just just a loss, and it's simple as that almost. I don't know. It's kind of a lame answer, but
I think it's not easy to sweep a team in the NHL. No. It's just not. So it was a tough one. But I would agree with Tyler. It's not like that wasn't one of those losses we just been like, fuck, they were bad. That wasn't it. It's just mistakes ended up in the net. Like, look at first of all, the reffing was atrociously inconsistent that night. And when you think about the Draisaitl penalty in the corner was just dog shit, ending up in the game winner, which was just a brain fart by Archibald, basically shooting it on his own net.
But then a brain fart by Smith as well. Like Smith just let it, like, just cover the puck out.
Yeah, it was like a series of errors that ended badly. It happens sometimes. I had a bigger problem with the initial call on that power play than anything, but yeah, we will get to that in a moment. I want to give a shout out to our friends at Cornerstone Insurance. Go check them out at cornerstoneins.ca. For 90 years and 4 generations, Cornerstone Insurance has been a family and employee-owned business here in Edmonton. With all of your insurance needs, they will cover it. House, personal, automotive, you got it. cornerstoneins.ca. Go check them out if you need a quote, or if you need some help, or if you just want to say hi. They're very friendly. Very, very friendly indeed. cornerstoneins.ca. All right. We got to talk about the refs. I have to do it, but first I want to say a 5-star review. This one is from Urban Achiever. Came in last week. I guess earlier this week. Every episode for the last month, there is someone crunching something and it's annoying as fuck. Please, anyone else hear this? Speak up. Guys, what is that crunching sound?
It's Rick's beard. I guarantee you there's no crunching today.
I know it is Rick's beard. It's the best because, okay, to take you behind the scenes, dear Urban Achiever, every week before we start this podcast, we do a little preamble, a little chat, see what's going on, make sure that we're all covering everything. And we get this. I don't know is it coming through?
Yeah, that's what it is.
So right now I'm just rubbing my microphone on my whiskers. And Rick has got himself a big old COVID beard right now. And that's what that is. We tell him. Tyler's told him multiple times. And you will notice now, listen back. This is my challenge. Listen back and see exact moments when that scratching stops. And you will know that Tyler sent a message to the group text telling Rick to pull the fucking mic away from his beard.
There's got to be a better way to get him a different mic here.
Yes. Is he like holding it in his mouth? Why is he holding it against his chin when he's talking?
So he uses like the Apple headphones, right? So his mic, his mic is just a little bit too close to his beard. So whenever he moves his head, it rubs up against the beard, and it sounds like he has a handful of poker chips that he's like juggling up and down next to his mic. It's brutal. I love it.
At the end of the day, Tyler, you need to take that out and post, right?
That's my other favorite thing too. People are like, you need to edit that better. And I'm like, you've clearly never worked with audio. If you think you can just like it's like, Josh, it's like if you record in a windstorm, you can't just be like, I'll edit out the wind.
Yeah, I'll just take the wind out. It's all good.
Hey, I used to produce this podcast back in the day, and I'm telling you, we didn't have beard scratching back then.
We were all in the same room and had normal microphones, but that is a different thing.
And I was making it up as I went. Holy. All
right. So, Mr. Urban Achiever, your feedback is heard. We will see if we can't get Rick some kind of headset or something, because he and I use the exact same microphone, and you don't get that same scratching from old Bag.
Mm-hmm. Although today, the only issue the listeners are going to have is that at one point my internet shit out. So Dan and Bag Milk lagged a little, but I'm going to edit that as best as I can. So hopefully they didn't notice.
Well, this is what happens when we podcast during a fucking pandemic, people. I haven't been in the same room as Tyler in over a year and a half. Weird.
True story.
Sad. I've never been in the same room as you, so.
That is true. Josh, we've never been in the same room.
Never.
Not once.
Not once.
So I was at an Oil Kings game when you were hosting it one time.
Oh, you were in a big room together.
Yeah. A giant room.
And I've met Tyler lots.
Oh, yeah. I see Josh. Hey, superstar. That's what I always say when I see Josh at Oil Kings games. He's the superstar of those games.
Good. Thanks, Tyler.
I think it's hilarious though that Josh is coming up on his year anniversary with the nation here in the next couple of months. And yeah, we've never been in the same room.
He's
never been in the same room as most of the people on the team, actually.
No. Mostly Jay. I just spend all my time with Jay.
Yep. Just all your time with Jay. That's why that's why you got him. Oh, by the way, since you spent so much time with Jay, can you walk us through how you made him do that Cotton Eye Joe can't stomp for TikTok?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Jared texted me. Yeah, so Jared texts me and he's like, hey, man, we need some Nation beer content. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I've made a couple random videos in my basement, but he wanted some more like engaging content. So I was just scrolling through TikTok, of course, Bag Milk, this is what we do.
Of course.
And one of those came up and it was like this like decently attractive girl doing it. And she kind of sucked at doing it and it got 1 million likes. And I was like, Jay can do this.
Yeah.
So I texted him and I was like,
Jay's decently attractive.
Well, yeah, I'm like, Jay's decently good looking. Like, we could maybe make this happen. So then I texted him and then I texted Jared and got like 9 empty Nation beer cans. And then we met up and I texted him the video and Jay's like, yeah, let's freaking do it. So then we did it. And then the best part is that we only had one shot at it and I'd never actually recorded like a TikTok in that format before. So like we had one shot at this. And then after he finished stomping, I don't know if you guys saw in the video, he did like this little dance. And it was like he started jumping around doing this dance. And he's like, as soon as we finished recording, he goes, man, I'm going to get buried online for this. So of course I had to keep the whole thing in, but yeah, it was funny. It was good stuff. I'm going to repost it.
One take Downton. That's what we call him.
Yep.
That's what we call him. All right. There gives you a little look behind the scenes at Jay doing Cotton Eye Joe stomps. All right. I want to move along a little bit. So Wednesday night's game covered. Couple of things for the roster, though. My boy, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, back in the lineup. I actually thought they were going to give him a night off because they had those extra 4 days between that game and Monday's game against the Jets, but he did not. I don't think he looked all that sharp, to be honest. I thought he looked, I still think Nuge is battling confidence a little bit. He had an opportunity near the side of the net where he had a clean look and he just kind of duffed his shot. He doesn't look like the same guy that was ripping it up last year. I hope the goal he scored near the end of the game to make it 4-2 is going to kind of give him some of that mojo back. But Tyler, I was thinking about it as we were getting ready for the podcast. We haven't been able to text each other the low
Nuge.
shot.
Yeah.
Fist up, knee up, Selly Tyler and I last year would text each other all the time. All the time. Low shot, fist pump Selly, and we would do it all the time. We just haven't been able to do it all that much. So real quick, in a couple of sentences, what do you think of Nuge coming back for the first game, in a few scoring towards the end of the game? But again, I still think he's fighting it a little bit.
Yeah. So what I'll say about Nuge is last game, I thought he was okay. And I think there is room for improvement there. I think he'll get more comfortable as he gets a few more games under his belt here. He's clearly fighting a confidence thing, but he gets that goal at the end of the game. And I saw some people who were like, oh, McDavid basically just all he had to do was move his stick a little and it went in. Like McDavid did everything but shoot the puck for him. And when he scores an easy goal, people shit on him for being like, oh, that's on the power play and McDavid did all the work. It doesn't count. Then when he doesn't score those goals, people say, oh, all he's got to do is fucking tap in the puck. He plays with McDavid. It's the easiest job in the world. So like, you can't be on both sides of that argument. And listen, I understand people want Nuge to drive play more and yada, 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 but he's not that guy. Like at this point, he's a really, really good complementary player. And he has his defensive game's good as well. And like, that's what we should be expecting out of him. Everyone's like, thinking he's going to return into this like 50 goal a year sniper like Leon Draisaitl did. And like, just don't put those expectations on him. And I think it's a bit of a confidence thing. He's slumping a little bit this season. Who knows if the contract situation's weighing on him as well, but I refuse
to believe it's not.
I think he'll turn it around still. Like, I think this is a guy who there's too much natural talent there for him to not go on a heater at some point. And fuck, if he stays cold for the rest of the regular season, but it means he's red hot for game one of the playoffs, I'll take that shit.
No kidding. So I agree. It's like Nuge is going to get back to where he's at. Like the funny thing is with Oilers fans, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes, the body of work as a whole, if you look back the last 3.5 seasons with Nugent Hopkins, he's been great. This year, contract year, has not been great. Edmonton fans specifically love to take shots at guys who are negotiating new contracts. We're seeing it with Nuge. We're seeing it with Tyson Barrie. We're seeing it with Larson yesterday after Jim Matheson tweeted that maybe it's a 4-year deal on an extension, something like that. But whenever you need a new contract in Edmonton, you are going to take some heat. And he's not having a great year is the reality of it. But I also don't think he's having a disastrous season either. It's somewhere in the middle of those two. And if he can get going towards the playoffs, that is going to be a major addition for this team because he is still the third best forward on the roster. Josh Park, your thoughts? Yeah. Nuge, first game back after suffering a concussion.
Yeah, you guys know this, or Bag Milk, you might know this. Like, I've been a little bit slightly outwardly skeptical of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins this season. Like,
say what you mean to say. Come on.
Just because I'm staring at you now, Josh, don't mean to back it off.
Dude. He's been bad. He's had a bad season, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and
wow.
You know, well, I don't want to
let the man speak. Let the man speak.
Like 5 on 5, it's been a struggle. But at the same time, you take that as you do, because at the same time, you know, on the power play, he's picking up the points where he does. And Tyler, I'll agree with you on the point that you made when you said, you know, you can't have it both ways. If you're gonna criticize him when he doesn't shoot the puck on the power play or 5 on 5 in those situations, then you can't also be like, well, yeah, he didn't have to do any other work when he scored that goal on Wednesday night. I like that goal. He shot the puck. He scored a goal. We like to see that from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Yep. And that's what we're going to need at the end of the season here. And that's what we're going to need going into the playoffs. So no, it's, I hope it's a kick in the right direction for him. Do I think that this is the same level of output we're going to see, you know, next year? Because I'm in the mindset that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins will be an Oiler next season. Bag Milk, I'll say it. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is an Oiler next season. He's going to re-sign with his team. And do I think that this level of output that he's having this season is going to be the same next season? No. This is a down year for him. Guys go through down years. You know, it's a contract year. That's weighing on him. There's a confidence thing there that's just not working for him right now. So, you know, like Tyler said, if he can get red hot going into the playoffs here, and if he can kind of even elevate his contribution a little bit, then that'll be a big boost for the Oilers. And yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping it'll start trending in the right direction. But you think Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is the third best forward on this team, Bagmo?
Easily.
You do? You think so? You don't think JP is almost there yet?
No.
I think right now JP is playing like the third best player on the team. But if you go, you know, top potential wise right now, Nugent-Hopkins, I would still expect him when all's said and done at the end of the year to turn it around at some point.
Yeah. Okay. I would agree with that.
Nuge is too good I think there's a lot going into it. I think we as fans can be guilty of treating players like robots a little bit. You can't tell me that a contract extension with the only organization he's ever known isn't weighing on him.
It has to be.
If this was a year ago, we'd be talking about, maybe 2 years ago, we'd be talking about Nuge signing for 7 and something because there was no pandemic and everybody would be like, yeah, that makes sense. But now it's a flat cap in the middle of a fucking shitstorm and who knows what's going to happen. Dan finishes off Nuge and Hopkins. This is going longer than I thought it would. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I think just for me, the one thing that I find myself saying when a play doesn't go Nuge's way is just that he's missing that little bit of finish at the end of his play that you come to expect from him. And I think that's where what Tyler was talking about. And I'll speak to it more when we talk about the refereeing, but it's confirmation bias, right? You believe that something is an issue for him, and then you see it and you're like, exactly, I was right? And I think Oiler fans and hockey fans in general get guilty of that quite often. And so, yeah, you can't forget, you can't just throw away the last whatever seasons, 5-6 seasons of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' career and pretend like, well, this is the new player that we have now. This is the new normal for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. It's just not the case. It's silly to do it that way. It's a good thing for the team that he's had a little bit of a struggle, right? Because the contract isn't going to be as astronomical as it could be if he was having a career year. So be happy with that. And again, when it really comes down to it, we're in the playoffs now. We need these guys to come around come playoff time. It doesn't matter if they score 17 goals against the Vancouver Canucks in those 5 games, as long as they're scoring those goals against the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Montreal Canadiens, whoever we end up playing.
It's for a I think it's funny when a player, Josh brought up he's having a down year. I think it's funny when a player has a down year, which happens all the time. And the reactions to said down year are very funny to me. They're so extreme. Look at Taylor Hall when he was in Buffalo. People just thought he forgot how to play hockey or something. You know what I mean? Obviously he was battling confidence there, probably pressure, chased
that entire team sucks.
The whole thing, everything was a train wreck. And then he goes to Boston and he's like, oh yeah, Taylor Hall still knows how to play hockey. That makes sense.
Well, and he's also playing on a wing with the greatest player in the NHL right now, right? And so there's that expectation that he should be the second best player in the NHL because he's riding the coattails of McDavid or whatever.
Oh, we're talking about Nuge.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Hall. I'm like, when did David Krejci get this?
Yeah, I was like, Dan's a really big David Krejci guy.
Wow. Most underrated player ever. He's actually the greatest. No, for me, for Nuge, I think that's a lot of people's issue too, right? They expect him to be the Leon Draisaitl, and he's just not. That's okay. But yeah,
I like the new line combos though. I think that'll help Nuge.
We're going to get to that in 2 seconds, but first I just want to wrap up that series against Montreal. Bad news in terms of a couple of players. Let's talk about it. Jujhar Khaira got concussed again. It took, I don't know what you guys thought, but as I was watching the play come together, the hit looked just very normal. It just looked like a very normal hit that a player would take in the NHL, but obviously the results were anything but. As JJ got the wobbly legs, needed help getting off the ice. Obviously having 2 concussions in a span of a month is bad news. So around the horn really quickly, thoughts on JJ?
Well, I'll say this first. It came out this morning. I don't remember who said it on Twitter. I saw that they said that actually right before the hit, that I believe it was Romanov laid on Jujhar Khaira. Apparently he hit his head on the glass or something. So he was actually kind of dazed going into that hit. And then it was the hit that kind of set him over the edge. So apparently going into that whole situation, he was already kind of loopy, and then the hit obviously elevated the situation. So yeah, tough situation with JJ. You hate seeing that twice in the same month. It's a part of the game, which is a sad thing to say, but it's good to hear that he's skating today. And, you hope for a quick return on him. Who knows if it's going to be, this regular season or if it'll head into the playoffs. You hope that they would take the most extreme caution on this just because it is a head thing. And I'm sure they do. There's a lot of smart doctors over there with the Oilers that'll figure it out. But yeah, I just wanted to say that before we got into it, that it said that, I don't remember who said it, but apparently he hit his head on the glass or something laying a hit. So he was already kind of dazed on that shift and then just got banged up. So yeah.
Brutal luck. Dan.
And I think, Josh, you said it too, like one of the things that fans we get guilty of, because we have become more informed on head injuries and injuries in general, is that we all just want to err on the side of caution. But at the end of the day, these are NHL players, and they're not here because they know how to take a day off. They're here because they go to work and they like to go to work, and that's just their default. Now, yes, you absolutely hope that the doctors step in and say, you know what, it is time to take a day off, Jujar, and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, he does have his own future in his hands, and so you have to respect that. He came out, maybe he was, still a little prone to getting a concussion, and it happened. But it looks like he's coming back here right away, and you hope that he's feeling okay with it, and then that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Tyler, before I get to you, Dave Tippett says Kara will need to complete more tests. Says Kara hit his head against the glass. So it was Dave Tippett that said it. Trying to make a check about 10 seconds earlier. Kara won't be back in the lineup without doctors signing off on it. His health is of the utmost importance there. Tyler, wrap us up on JJ.
Yeah, like he obviously can't come back till he clears protocols and doctors give him the thumbs up. And what I would do is I would even say, let's say a week from now he gets clearance. I'd say, you know what, Jujar, we're keeping you out another week, and we'll give you the last 3-4 games of the regular season to get back up to speed. But let's not risk this thing here. One, he's an important part of that forward group. Two, like you said, his health is the most important thing here. So just don't risk it, and especially don't risk it for meaningless regular season games. Wait till he's 100%. Wait a little longer. Make sure everything's good. Get him going hard in practice, and then put him back in the lineup. But there's zero need to rush this thing.
Yep, I agree completely. I think Jujar is obviously a massive part of this team. He's played very well too. So to see him have this kind of run of tough luck in terms of his health it's a real bummer, because I'm a huge Jujar guy. I've loved his season so far, and I hope that he can be healthy. And I'm with Tyler. Take the time, take extra time. It's not just hockey in terms of a head injury. It's the rest of his life as well. So I know doctors are going to be taking care of it. I know the Oilers are going to be looking at it. And Dave Tippett talked about the utmost caution in this scenario. So that's how it's got to be. Also, bad news, Zach Kassian looks like he's going to be out a while, according to Dave Tippett. Still no clarification necessarily on what that means, but it doesn't really look like it was a Charlie horse, as was kind of speculated. Though I know those can take a minute to get over, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Obviously we're guessing. Don't buy into what we're saying here. I'm just purely guessing that it looked like his knee hit the boards to me. And I wonder if that popped out. Once upon a time, Mr. Josh Park, when I was playing Pee-wee, I dislocated my kneecap and it went all the way up into my thigh, and it had to get pulled down by doctors. So,
are you serious?
Yeah, it was up near my...
That's disgusting.
Way up there. So
Tyler's going to throw up right now.
That's so fucked.
First thing I thought of was him hitting his knee directly on the boards. I hope that's not the case, because for me, it was a fucking nightmare.
Big question.
What do you guys think?
Bagmel, can you move your kneecap still around?
No. But my left shoulder, I'll show you guys one time. My left shoulder, I dislocated really, really badly in Bantam. And it was in practice, of course. So when I got up, my shoulder was down kind of near my ribs, and I'm like, whoa, that's bad. And then now as a result, I can grab my wrist and pull this left shoulder out of its socket very easily. It moves
that is
down by an inch or two.
I hate you.
I'm gonna for Tyler. Yeah, for Tyler, I'll talk about, and Josh, I'll talk about Kassian. I think for the big man now has had 3 injuries this season, 2-3.
It's been a tough season.
So for him, he played probably his best game of the year against Montreal in the first one. So maybe he is just feeling some general body aches, and they are looking at pushing him for the playoffs kind of thing now, and maybe get him a game in or a game 2 in before the end of the season. But yeah, I'm okay with these guys getting the time off, especially for a guy in Kassian where we need his physicality in the playoffs.
It was just such a bummer. We already said it. Monday's game against Montreal was his best of the season, and he finally looked like he was Zach Kassian again. And it's just such a bummer that he got hurt the opening minutes of Wednesday's game. But Josh, what do you think about Cass going up?
Yeah, tough. Finally saw the wires cross on Monday again, and he was dialed in old Zach Kassian mode, and then he just freaking rails his knee off the board. So obviously tough situation. You hope the best for him. And it's such a weird thing because they haven't really come out and said what exactly the injury is. Like you said, Bagmel, we can kind of assume it's an LBI, probably the knee, but Dave Tippett, literally all he said was Kassian's just going to be out an extended amount of time. Yeah. So does that mean a week? Does that mean 2 weeks? Does that mean the rest of the season? Is he going to have to get ACL surgery? Who knows what's going on? But You hope he's back for the postseason because obviously, although he's struggled a little bit this season, he brings an added element. And we've seen him in the past, 2017, Cassian, when he gets into playoff mode, he can kind of go banana lands. So, yeah.
Tyler?
Tippett did say, they'll address this a little bit more tomorrow. So I'm sure by the time a lot of people listen to this podcast, we'll have more info on it. Same thing as Kara. Just if he needs to be held out until the final 2 games of the regular season, like just fucking do it and then let him come back, use those last couple games as a mini training camp and be ready to go game 1 of the playoffs. Hopefully it's not so serious that he has to miss playoff games because, those are coming up in about a month now. So hopefully it's not too bad. Considering how he's been playing this year, it's not the major loss it may have been last year when he was, on a bit of a heater. So hopefully he's back. Hopefully he's vintage Cassian for the playoffs.
Agreed. With injuries come new line combos. So let's dive into some line combos, boys. I actually like how Dave Tippett put these together. I'm going to give him some love. So here's what we got. Cahoon, McDavid, Puljujärvi. Cahoon getting the bump up to McDiesel. Nuge, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, keeping those 3 together despite the fact that they were a little bit quiet on Wednesday. I like it. Ennis, Haas, Archibald. And then the 4th line, we rounded out with Neil, Shore, and Chiasson, with Nygaard, Turris, and Patrick Russell taking the extra laps. Nurse, Barry, Kulikov in with Larson, which I think is interesting. I was actually hoping he would be with Bear, but we'll talk about that. Nurse, Barry, Kulikov, Larson, Jones, Bear. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. Anywhere you want to go.
I like it. I think the idea of keeping Dry, Nuge, and Yamo together is good. I think McDavid and Puljujärvi are finding something here, and whoever you throw on that left side, they just need to catch lightning in a bottle for 2 or 3 weeks. So this setup in the top 6 gives you the best chance of having 2 elite scoring lines. So I think that's the way you need to roll. In the bottom 6, Tyler Ennis has produced decent offense at 5-on-5. I don't mind him with Haas and Archibald. The 3rd or the 4th line of Neil, Shore, and Chiasson, or it could end up being Neil, Kara, and Chiasson. That trio was good in the playoffs or in the bubble last year. Shore's having a good year. No problems with the forward group. On the blue line, I'm with you. I would have liked to see Kulikov with Bear and Jones with Larson, but here's what I'll say. I actually think that might flip-flop depending on if they have home ice advantage or not. And you put the 2 shutdown guys together, you put the 2 puck movers together. When you're on home ice and you can pick where you start them and pick your matchups, when you're in the offensive zone, you start the 2 offensive guys. When you're in the defensive zone and Scheifele's on the ice, you start the 2 shutdown guys. When you go on the road to, say, it's Winnipeg again, and you mix it up and you have a puck mover and a shutdown guy on each pair so that no matter what the matchups are, you feel confident. So I think the D pairings will flip a lot throughout the year, so I'm not even reading too much into these.
Josh, line combos.
As a fan, I love McDavid and Draisaitl playing together. Obviously, I know in playoffs, that's not a realistic situation. You got to have them on 2 separate lines. You want to have 2 scoring lines. JP McDavid, like Tyler said, they're really starting to develop some chemistry there. You hope that the Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, Yamamoto line can get into a similar mojo that we saw out of them last year before they entered the bubble. And on that left side with Dominic Cahoon, is he the ideal fit there? Probably not. If Cassian was healthy, I've always been a fan of the Cassian, McDavid, Puljujärvi line. I don't think they've really given that a good enough of a look this year. So if Cassian was healthy, I would like to see him on the first line on the left side. I know it's like you just finished saying he has had a tough season, so why are you putting him on the first line? But anyways, I'm interested to see what they do with Ryan McLeod when he comes into the lineup. Is James Neal the guy that's going to come out? Is Tyler Ennis going to be the guy that comes out? We've seen a couple different instances this year where Tyler Ennis kind of gets the short end of the stick and then ends up coming out of the roster with Dave Tippett. But I've liked Devin Shore this year. I really like him on that 4th line. I think him and Chiasson actually have a little bit of chemistry going on. And then James Neal, if he can get the foot speed up, then just freaking do it, James Neal.
Those boots are slow.
It's like a slog.
It's almost like you need to put Connor out there, just pushing him around. Like I don't remember him being that slow last year, but it's a
struggle for James Neal.
That drill you used to have to do in minor hockey where you have to hold the guy's stick and carry him and like pull him through the ice. They should just have them do that on the breakout, and Neal just grabs onto McDavid and like stays up to speed as they go up for a rush.
Yeah.
Okay, did anyone else notice this? Oh, sorry. Okay, can I say one other quick thing?
Of course.
No.
I just wanted to say, did anyone, Tyler, you're going to want to hear this, man. Did anyone notice? Did it look like James Neal was wearing like a Danny Heatley style rock star visor on Wednesday?
His visor looked
way darker.
It did.
Yeah, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me because I'd had a couple of cocktails during the game, and I was just like, okay, get out there.
You had your own tinted visor on, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
Nice. And then also I want to say I like Jones with Bear still, just because I think it kind of is a little bit of a safety blanket for Jones, because we've seen a couple times, especially last game, that trying to get the puck out of his own end, sometimes it can be a little bit of a hand grenade. So I like having Bear with him. You can say the same thing about having Kulikov with Larson, because neither of them are really puck movers, but at the same time, they're going to take so many defensive zone draws, and that's not really their game. So, well, their game is taking defensive zone draws, but just shutting down on their own end. But Dan,
Dan, wrap us up on the line combos.
You guys have already talked about most of the things. I mentioned it on State of the Nation that I want to see this Kulikov Larson matchup. I like it. I like the idea of the old Chris Pronger, Jason Smith kind of, just mash the other team's top lines, and then you go out and you score some goals with Nurse and Bear. So yeah, for me, I'm interested to see the defensive pairings, just because I do think that we have a real strength there going into the playoffs, with, like Tyler said, with the utility knife style of pairing, where we don't have to necessarily have guys stapled with each other. Everybody's pretty comfortable with each other right now on that D back end. So I'm happy with that.
Just to wrap things up on the defense before we move into the ref talk. Jason Gregory yesterday on OilersNation.com said the Oilers and Evan Bouchard and his agent discussed him going back to Bakersfield, but it was deemed that the best solution is to stay with the team, which I find interesting. I would rather have him playing, but I don't know what it went into that. So that is an interesting thing. It's also going to be interesting that the Oilers are going to have Slater Cuckoo coming back here at some point. So they have got 9 million defensemen that are going to be available. So I imagine these combinations are going to change heavily between now and the end of the year. Real quick, before we get into the Deuce Vodka hot and cold performers, I just want to talk about the refs. Wednesday was a train wreck. I wrote it in the wrap up. First 2 periods were prison rules out there. I thought Koskinen was making shanks at the end of the bench for the boys, but then moving into the third, things changed and the refs were calling stuff that was odd. I've already complained about the Draisaitl penalty that led to the game-winning goal, but I think the refs in the NHL are trash. They're so inconsistent that it bothers me. Bring in fucking robots for all I care, because this is really annoying me. I don't want to. That's my piece. I'm going to let you guys have yours. Your thoughts?
Well, for me, this sentence game management has just absolutely given referees and again, it's something that has existed before this, but we now have a term for it, and it just seems to be giving referees a reason to just not call the rule book. They get to pick and choose when they want to call stuff, because they can put that little possession arrow on one side of their brain or not, and it's so frustrating as a fan, because like you said, Bagmilk, you don't know what's going to happen period to period, minute to minute, where a call is going to happen, where it's not going to happen. If you want to come out and say, like I mentioned in my tweets during the game, put up that possession arrow, put up that bonus arrow where you just point to a team. The referee gives one team the advantage on a foul that they don't want to necessarily call as a penalty. But don't pretend like it's something that we should all just understand and trust the referees on. That's where I get frustrated with it. Tyler, you go ahead.
Call the book, Tyler.
Yeah, call the fucking book. And I'm trying to make it a goal to stop bitching about it on Twitter, even though anytime you complain about penalties or officiating on Twitter, those tweets do fucking numbers, baby. So it's really good for the engagement to just like throw it out there.
Cloud chasing.
Yeah, but no, like I feel like I need to stop bitching about it, because it's never going to change. It's just not. Shea Weber can lay as much lumber into the back of whoever that he wants to in front of the net.
Good veteran guy.
Yeah, good veteran guy. That's how you play star players tough. And hey, it's in front of the net. That's the tough areas of the ice. But then Draisaitl steamrolls Joel Edmondson the second he lets go of the puck, and it's fucking interference. I thought both the tripping calls on the goalies were fucking needless. Like, there's just so much stuff that they let go that made no sense, that they called that then made less sense. And that's just the way it's going to be. And you know what? Giddy up, Oilers fans, because the playoffs is going to piss you off 10 times more than this shit is.
Yep. Josh, wrap us up.
Yeah, there's an elite group of players in the NHL that'll never get a penalty called on them. It's Shea Weber, Ryan Getzlaf, Jeff Carter, those guys. Like, they'll just never call penalties on these guys. I don't know if it's because they're 1,000 years old or what it is, but it's ridiculous. They got to start calling the rule book. Tyler, I agree with you. Tweets complaining about the refs always do numbers.
Numbers.
Always. It's the best. But yeah, it's terrible. That's all I have to say. Horrible.
Tyler, get your buttons ready. It is time for the Deuce Vodka hot and cold performers of the week. Now, Josh, we did give you a warning this time.
Yeah.
So you will be participating, But first, I want to let you know that if you go to deucevodka.com/find us, you will first see a very handsome picture of Brett Kissel. Second, you will find a store locator for where you can find this delicious vodka. I recommend that you make yourself a cocktail. I recommend that you enjoy responsibly. And I recommend that you go to deucevodka.com/find us. Check out the store locator. If you have questions, you can also email sales@deucevodka.com. Again, everything you need is at deucevodka.com. As we do every week, we start off with our veggies here in the Hot and Cold Performers. Josh, you're first up. The pressure is on. Your Deuce Vodka Cold Performer of the Week.
My Deuce Vodka Cold Performer of the Week is going to be Alberta weather. It's cold. I don't like it. I want to golf. And I just frankly have not been satisfied so far over the last week here. And it's not supposed to be great for the next week either. I want to golf. I want to get outside. I want to get my Miami Beach tan going on, and I'm not able to. So my cold performer is the weather.
Oh, that's cold.
Literally.
Yes,
literally cold.
Literally. I know that's kind of a cop-out because it's such an easy answer, but I just want to lose money on the golf course. So
I just want to get a bronze too, baby. I tan beautifully. Dan, you're next up. You do. Deuce Vodka Cold Performer of the Week.
Well, mine's going to go out to some hockey fans. A highlight that came out of the last game against the Montreal Canadiens that everybody seemed to be playing in Montreal Canadiens land was Connor McDavid catching Corey Perry with a little cold arm shiver, and it's as if hockey fans forgot who Corey Perry is. Like all of a sudden Connor McDavid is elbowing the Lady Bing nominee or something. It's comical to me. The guy was reaching for Connor McDavid's stick. He told him to get off and he caught it. He caught an elbow. It is what it is. But also Corey Perry, great sell job because you got these hockey fans going. You got them fired up. McDavid is our goon. Thank you, hockey fans. You're my cold performer of the week.
Worse.
The funny thing about that one too is, first of all, Corey Perry sold it. Like, you got what you got. But the second thing is, we were just talking about the refs. When they're not calling the book, that creates an environment where a guy like Corey Perry, that's what he's made for. He knows he can go fuck shit up and nothing is going to get called. And that's exactly what he did. Tyler, you're next. Deuce Vodka Cold Performer of the Week.
There was big waves made the other day online when it came out that I'd never eaten a donair before.
Yes.
And that changed yesterday, thanks to Jay Downton, who sent a donair to my house via Skip the Dishes. Shout out to Skip the Dishes. Shout out to the Skip the Dishes driver who knew he was delivering my first ever donair. That was awesome. But I had my first donair, and let me just say this. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but everyone overhypes these things. They seem to be something that is only good when you're drunk.
No.
And also, let me say this. All the people who were shitting on me for being like, oh, you fucking ate it wrong. Oh, there's lettuce on it. You fucking moron, eating your donairs with lettuce like an idiot, like a little boy. Like, just everything that surrounded my first ever donair experience was negative. So my whole first donair experience gets the cold performer of the week.
What the hell is going on?
That's heartbreaking to me.
I thought lettuce always goes on donairs.
No, and then you have people like shitting on me in the mentions. Like I did it myself.
It depends. So the thing with donairs
Tyler, what are you doing?
The thing with donairs is they're intensely personal. First of all, and if you subscribe to the Halifax style donair, there's no lettuce on it.
There's no lettuce or cheese.
Whereas we got one from just a place near Tyler, and we just let the artist create as they wish. And the things that were funny to me was, the reaction to Tyler didn't know, he didn't have it. So he unpacked it and he ate it like a taco, which was hilarious. But the reactions were so funny.
Okay, and that's the other thing too. I ate it like a taco, which is like fucking fine. That's pretty much the shape it's in the wrapper. And people were like, you're an idiot. Do you know that? You're so stupid. That's not even a donair anymore. Like,
people are going after Tyler.
That would be like if I ate a cup of soup in a mug and people would be like, oh, that's not a cup of soup, you idiot. That's in a mug, you fucking dick. Like, come on.
It was great. It was great. Tyler, I promise you your next donair will be better when we're able to get together. Because you got to picture, there's a whole vibe. I told you this yesterday. We all get together, a nation event at the Pint when we're able, we're safe and we're all vaccinated. And then we have cocktails all day. And when we're time to shut the night down, we wander over to Donair Shop for a 1 a.m. Donair as a crew. That is where the money's at. And that's the Donair experience I want you to have, not one that's been traveled.
I had my first Donair when I started with the nation, Tyler. So don't worry, I'm with you. Jay took me.
And do you love them?
Good. Like we had two. One of them I had half sweet sauce, half garlic sauce, and that was good. You gotta have half and half.
Josh has hated on Donairs and Nugent Hopkins this episode.
I'm gonna get fired. I don't hate. No, I don't hate on either of them. I love Nuge, and Donairs are not bad.
Doesn't sound like either, in my opinion. I'm texting Jay right now. 1 second. All right. Okay, just to wrap us up, Deuce Vodka Cold Performer of the Week for me. Boys, I'm looking at all of you. I will confess I had a very bad betting week. It was a bad week for Bag Milk's bankroll. I was feeling good. I was betting with my heart. And unfortunately, it did not work for me. Although I did win one ridiculous parlay on no goal scorers that Tyler got us to do on real life. And it was a 7-leg parlay that only landed me at plus 110. And at least I got it, but that was the only bet that I won. So I am not doing very well this week. Deuce Vodka Cold Performer of the Week is me betting.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
It did escalate quickly, and what de-escalated quickly is my fucking bankroll. Flipping the ledger to the positive side of our week. The Deuce Vodka Hot Performers of the Week. I'm going to go ahead and start this one off because I'm selfish. So I'm going to give a shout out to our new social media coordinator, Matthew Wozniak. The Woz. He just started with the nation this week. He's creating for us on Instagram, on Reels, and the stories, on the feed, on TikTok. He is helping us increase our social game and improve it there. So I'm just going to give my Hot Performer of the Week to Woz on your first week of the nation.
I like this right here.
You should like that right there. Next up on my screen is Dan. You're up next. Your Deuce Vodka Hot Performer of the Week.
Mine's pretty short, quick, and simple. With 8 points in his last 3 games this week, it's Connor McDavid. You guys all know him. We all love him, and it's a treat to. He could be a Hot Performer of the Week every week, but he's my Hot Performer of the Week this week.
Put some respect on my name.
Oh, see, I was expecting you to go, he's a hot guy.
Ah, damn, I should have done that one. Sorry. My bad.
Isn't that Bob Cole?
He's a hot guy.
There we go. All right, Josh Park, you're up next. Your Deuce Vodka Hot Performer of the Week.
I am going to switch it on the fly here. I was going to say Jesse Puljujärvi, but since Dan said an Oilers player, I'm going to switch it up slightly, just a little bit. I'm going to go with my boy, Jack Michaels. Yes. Jack Michaels is hot right now. He's just Jack. So Jack, hot.
Can I play this whole clip to celebrate Jack Michaels?
Yep, play it.
Have a goalie fight. Bear throws the right hand. Here comes Cam Talbot and Mike Smith. They're going to go at center ice. Talbot short with the right hand. Smith, 3 clubbing right hands. Right hand Talbot. Big right-handed shot from Mike Smith. This is the battle of Alberta we've been waiting for 3 decades.
I love How can you not love him, man? Like,
fuck,
I'm fired up right now.
Just I love the way Jack Michaels calls games.
He is every one of us, but he's in front of a microphone. That's all it is, right? If we all had to talk about our emotions, we'd be talking like Jack does.
He also has the voice of an angel.
And just the way he describes the play, his flowery language, the descriptors he uses, the way he just punctuates certain things in sentences. Down the stretch we come makes me laugh every fucking time. Jack Michaels, excellent pick, Josh.
You can tell he put in his 10,000 hours. That's a real life joke.
We could go back to listen to the hours on that one. Tyler did some excellent Yaremchuk math on that one.
I actually remember that. I listened to that episode. When he said it's like an English paper, I wish I could get an extension. I lost it. That was unbelievable.
He's the best. You know what the worst part about Jack is? He's so good. I can't imagine it's long before they steal him from us.
Oh yeah, he's
it's going to be heartbreaking.
Tyler, don't say that. Don't say that.
He'll be the national broadcast guy for the nighttime soon.
You're telling me ESPN's not looking at those electric calls being like, fuck me, we need that guy.
Oh, yeah. He's going to get paid. He's going to get a bigger contract than McDavid's next one when McDavid's 29.
And if you haven't heard the real life interview with Jack Michaels, go back and listen to it, because getting to where he's at now was a fucking hell of a story. Okay, who's up next? Tyler, Deuce Vodka, hot performer of the week.
My hot performer of the week is going to Mr. Oscar Klefbom, who sat in front of the media today. He was smiley, and it was just nice to see his face again. One of my all-time favorite Oilers. Love Klefbom. I think the injuries have led to a lot of fans just constantly wanting to shit on him, and I don't get it at all. I love the dude, and he did say today there's no guarantee he ever plays again. That's at least what the doctor told him, but he did say he's feeling pretty good after his surgery. It's been 4 weeks, and I was just happy to see him back and smiling, and with the Oilers logo behind him, it feels good to know that Oscar Klefbom is still kicking around a little bit. So Oscar Klefbom, just you being you gets you my hot performer of the week.
Dem Arby's boys, wheels up, ski skirt.
Tyler, you got a man crush on Oscar Klefbom?
Oh, I totally
really
love
does.
Clef.
Did you see he's got an OnlyFans? Well, he doesn't actually, but in my jobs, Oilers would have outside of hockey video, I made him OnlyFans. That's actually Bagmouth. He told me to put that. So
thank you. If the Oilers really want to do themselves some favors, they would parade Oscar Klefbom in front of the cameras with no shirt on. That's just my thought. Let's see, make sure those abs are still beautifully formed and well greased. I'm just saying. It's been a while since he's played. We need to check on those babies. We need an update. We should do a nation calendar. Oh, yeah.
That would
absolutely sell. Boys of the Nation calendar. Everybody wants one. Remchuk will be in there. We'll all be there. Tarps off your Remchuk from the B-cast. That's what we'd have. Okay. We're winding down here. Episode 134 is set to wrap, but first, real quick, around the horn, got a couple of days off here. Monday game against the Jets. I just want a quick score prediction, and we will check back in next week to see how right we all were. I'm going to start off with a 4-2 Oilers win. Empty net goal for Josh Archibald. I'm getting real specific here. Dan, you're up first. Score prediction for the Jets.
I'm going to say 3-2 win for the Oilers in overtime, and an assist for Kulikov in his first game as an Oiler.
Nice, against his former club. I like that. Josh Park, your
5-4 Oilers. McDavid has 2 goals and 3 secondary assists for Tyson Barrie.
Love it. Love a secondary assist. Tyler Remchuk, score prediction against the Jets.
3-2 Oilers victory in overtime with Leon Draisaitl finding the back of the net for the winner.
I like it.
And we got to wrap up with this. Rowan Wick DM'd us on Instagram. He wanted to know what the Oilers' sort of magic number was before that they're locked in and clinched into a playoff spot. So I reached out to my good friend Matt Iwanek, who's always up to date on the math here. And he says it is 16 points. That is the Oilers' magic number. So that means either a combination of the Oilers acquiring 16 points in the standings and the Vancouver Canucks missing out on 16 points. That combination. So every game the Canucks lose is 2 points they lose. Every win for the Oilers is 2 points they get. 16 points is the Oilers' magic number.
And how many games did you say the Oilers have left against the Canucks?
5.
That can be over very quickly.
Yeah.
16 is the magic number. Now you know. From all of us here on Oilers Nation Radio, I want to thank you for listening. I appreciate your attention and welcoming us into your head. From all of us, I also want to thank Sherwood Ford, Skip the Dishes, Cornerstone Insurance, and Deuce Vodka for making this all possible. And more importantly for you, fair listeners, please leave us your reviews. I will read them. We will tell Rick to get rid of his scratchy beard. Maybe a clean-shaven Rick for next week if he's back. That's what's on tap. That is Oilers Nation Radio, episode 134. We're wrapping. Go Oilers. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weekend off. Subscribe and download. Tell a friend about this podcast because it's excellent. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great weekend.
Shout out Damien.
Best wishes.
Thanks for listening to Oilers Nation Radio, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media to stay up to date and never miss a podcast.